Welcome to Welding Forge Your Future. This event is sponsored by the Iowa Work-Based Learning Coordinators and hosted by the Iowa Intermediary Network. Thanks to a partnership with Iowa Skilled Trades, we have a great group of welding professionals joining us today to share their passion for their profession and the growing need for more people to become welders. Panelists today include Jason Becker, Stephanie Hoffman, David Madero, Scott Robbie, and Brandon Patterson. I'm going to turn it over to our moderator for today, Intermediary Megan Cruzy, to learn more about our panelists and why you should consider a career in welding.
Good morning. Thank you, Anne, very much for those introductions. Okay, we're going to go ahead and jump into our questions. Thank you all for being here with us. I will start with Brandon. Can you please list your name, your company, and kind of talk about your position, your background, and how did you get into welding?
Yeah, my name is Brandon Patterson. I am workforce development for Iowa Skilled Trades, which is a nonprofit and home builders association. I actually got into the trades, just born into it. My family owns and operates a plumbing business in rural Iowa. So I just grew up in it, born into it, down in a hole very early age. I actually don't have as much welding experience as everybody online here, but just here to promote the trades and try and spread awareness about all these opportunities that are available in the trade.
Great, thank you. That's pretty cool that you grew up in that. That's nice. The next one, let's do Jason. Do you want to kind of say your name, the company, your position, and then just give us a little background?
Sure. My name is Jason Becker. I am the I'm the program manager for the welding program at Valencia College in Orlando, Florida. I oversee 2 locations and 4 classes. I also host the Arc Junkies podcast, which is a podcast dedicated to welding. I also sit on the board of Crew Collaborative with Brandon. That's how we met. And the mission of that organization is to help get people young men and women, such as yourselves, into the skilled trades, be it welding, electrical, plumbing, anything like that. I actually got into the skilled trades because my family has a long line of blue collar workers. And I watched my dad cut a piece of chain one day over the summer when we were digging swimming pools. I was out of school, and I just thought it was fascinating. So the following year, I signed up for welding. I think it was my 10th grade year of high school. And so I did that all through high school. When I graduated, I joined the Marine Corps. I was a welder in the Marines. I got out in 2005, got into structural steel ironwork for about 10 years, building buildings and all kinds of stuff. I got to work at different theme parks, build airplane hangars, buildings. It was awesome. And then while I was working on my bachelor's degree, I got into welding education, and I've been teaching for about the last 7 years.
Awesome story. Thank you very much. David, would you like to go next and introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, my name is David Madero. I'm a metal sculptor and judge on what's my mind? Metal Shop Masters.
Metal Shop Masters.
I live here in beautiful Mexico. I'm owner and director of Madero Co., which is a welded art company. We do everything from MIG, TIG, stick, and especially oxyacetylene. We'll talk more about oxyacetylene later. And we just do metal art. I've been doing it, can you believe this, since I was 5 years old. My father was a metal sculptor, so I just kind of grew up around it and my whole life. And yeah, I'm here, and I just want to talk it up, man. I love welded art, and it's my obsession. So any questions people may have, I'm there for you, man.
David, I love how compassionate you are towards it. You can tell when you talk about it. You have a true love for it. So that's great.
It's an obsession I have.
That's a good obsession, right? Not a bad thing.
Exactly.
Stephanie, do you want to go next?
Sure.
Thank you.
So, my name is Stephanie Hoffman. I am the owner of Underground Metalworks. It is kind of taken on a new role lately. It was originally started as just a metal fabrication company where I did mostly, actually it started out doing stuff for like cars and the yacht industry. And then from there kind of morphed into doing stuff for restaurants, tattoo shops, hair salons, all custom builds for them, from signage to furniture, all that type of stuff. And then now it has blossomed into a full-blown welding school and that's scheduled to open in February. But aside from that, I've been welding for about 22 years now. I started in middle school, started welding all through high school, got a bunch of certifications in high school, went on to do like pressure vessels and hydraulic recapping type work, pipeline work, not pipeline work, but pipe work. And then got into doing anodized work in the marine industry, and doing work for like princes in Abu Dhabi and up and down the East Coast, and just like crazy stuff in the yacht industry. Then I got a degree in education, became a welding instructor, and then the American Welding Society picked me up, and I've been working with them for the last 3 years. I am basically the spokesperson for the organization. I travel the country touring on this big 85-foot tractor trailer. We go to all different types of events like the Iowa State Fair. So if anybody's ever in the area and going to that event, then come visit me this summer. I'll be there. Yeah, and so I travel and do a lot of stuff for them. And then I'm also on the show with David. I'm the other judge on Metal Shop Masters on Netflix. So yeah.
Wow, you guys are extremely busy. You were listing all that, and I'm like, holy, you've seen a lot of awesome things. That's really cool. Very neat. Okay, Scott, you're up next.
All right, I'm Scott Robbie. I'm the owner of Precision Welding Academy. We opened up about 2 years ago. We teach pretty much piping, high frequency, sanitary, pipeline, anything that happens. My background's mainly vessels, small part fabrication when I started, went into piping, building vessels, doing anything that pretty much comes my way. That's what I tell my students, you got to be versatile. And I started doing welding art, started my own business a while back doing just a bunch of random stuff, anything that people needed. And then went into the education, worked at 2 other schools that I kind of didn't like what they were doing. So I said, you know what, I need to open up my own school and try to change what schooling is in the area. So I've been doing it for about 15 years now.
You're helping educate a lot of students. That's great. Okay, so the next question we'll move to is going to be for Jason, but if any of you want to jump in and add, we sure would like that too. Jason, how many different styles of welding are there? Because I'm sitting here listening to how everyone is, you're all built around welding, but it's also different what you're talking about. So can you kind of just touch on some of those?
Yeah, so funny, I actually have my notes at the house for this specific question. I didn't know this was going to be one of the questions. But I actually learned at Lincoln Electric, they build welding equipment and welding rods and like everything to do with welding. They're considered the welding experts. I actually learned at one of their workshops, there's 120 different welding processes within our industry.
Wow.
There's actually 5 that we are the most used, but there's over 120 different types of welding. So the most common are shielded metal arc welding or stick welding. Then we have gas metal arc welding, or what's more commonly referred to as MIG welding. Gas tungsten arc welding, more commonly referred to as TIG welding. That's the fancy stuff you see on Instagram with all the blues and the pinks and the purple welds, all the stuff that Scott does an amazing job on the TIG welding process. And then we have what's called flux core arc welding, which is very similar to MIG, but we don't. The flux is actually on the inside of the wire. So everything that protects the metal and gives it different structural capabilities, gives the arc different characteristics. That's all on the inside of the wire, whereas like on stick, everything's on the outside of the wire. So that's pretty much the 5 main processes everybody's familiar with. But then you have stuff like submerged arc welding, which is a combination of like stick welding and MIG welding on steroids. So it's a really impressive system. But if you need to weld really thick material, that's something that you would do, especially if it was all linear in the flat horizontal position. They'll use submerged arc welding. There's also laser welding, friction stir welding, where they actually put 2 pieces of material, one from the top and one from the bottom, and they'll spin it, and it just melts the seam along the material. There's forge welding, which we talked about blacksmithing a little bit ago before the show, but you can actually forge weld by heating up 2 pieces of metal and forcing them together with constant force and pressure. So there's just so many different aspects into welding. That's the one thing I love about it, is the more I start digging into welding, the more I learn. And it's like a never ending battle. And every day it just gives me a new reason to get out of bed and learn something new about it. because like I've been in the industry for about 25 years, and I think I'm just barely scratching the surface of it. And there's just so much to learn about it. It's like a rabbit hole you can go down, and it's constantly changing, with new advancements in technology. That's the biggest thing I like about it. But yeah, there's about 120 different welding processes.
So is your goal to learn all 120?
No, I'm
Maybe.
content with the 5 that I know, but I'm always willing and open to learn, new processes like the laser welding and friction stir. That's something I haven't had access to. I think those would be kind of neat to learn, but really expensive. So I'm gonna have to go find a new friend with an unlimited budget and go play over at their house.
I love though your point when you said it's a reason to get up. Like, I love how you enjoy it so much and you're so compassionate about it that you do get up and you learn. It sounds like it's just, you can learn all the time about it because there's so much that you can do. So thank you for that answer. That was very good. Thank you. The next question, let's go with Stephanie, please. What are some considerations when choosing a career in welding?
I think the biggest consideration that people should make when, I guess, choosing a career path in welding is kind of where you live geographically in the country. That's always a big thing. A lot of people, they want to go and be, pipeline welders and stuff. But where I live in New Jersey, up on the East Coast, like there's a lot of pipe welders, but that image of being a pipeliner and, that's like a out West thing, and if you're not willing to travel, you really got to take those types of things into consideration. The type of lifestyle that you want to live. A lot of people, everybody wants to be an underwater welder, but they don't realize sacrifice your home life. You sacrifice your home life basically to go and do jobs like that. There's not many, what's the chances of you working a 9 to 5, being an underwater welder, and that's happening right down the road from your house for the rest of your career. It's probably slim to none that that's going to happen. So just kind of being aware of things that could be limiting in your area, and try and focus on those types of things. But if you're willing to travel and you want to go and, see the country and stuff, then yeah, go for some of these more, exotic type industries. I think the biggest thing, another big thing that people have to realize, there's a lot of crazy numbers always being talked about what you can make in the industry. And that is not the case for everybody. There are plenty of people who weld pipe, but don't make $150,000 a year. So I think sometimes, pulling away a little bit of these preconceived notions of what the salary is for certain career paths is something that needs to be, very upfront with these students. I think teachers sometimes like to be very overzealous in selling a specific career pathway to their students, and sometimes it's not reality. And you don't want to set your students up for kind of feeling like they got duped. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's really important to be wise about what the pay scale is in your area and what the pay scale is in the areas that you're willing to go and travel to. So, on the East Coast here by me, it's big union money. So it's pretty open what your pay rates are going to be. We do make pretty decent money on this side of the country, but then there's some more, in the Midwest and stuff like that it's very hit or miss. It's just a different lifestyle. So I think those are things that you really do have to consider is where you're at, regionally, for what your pay is going to be, and if you're willing to make some moves and travel and stuff like that.
Very good point. That is so true. So I agree with you. It's always good to do your research because you just never know. So are your hours, Steph, do you have to work sometimes, on the weekends, or do you typically get okay hours, or?
Well, I own the company, so I
you can do what yeah, that is nice.
But I mean, when I first started, I was working for people that, everything's on a time crunch. So when I first started, when I was doing pressure vessels and stuff, I was be there all night if a job had to get out. Yeah, there's a lot of overtime in that type of, and sometimes it's shift work. They have a day shift, a night shift, and then, they have 3 shifts in one day. It depends on the job. If you're doing outages and stuff, you might be ripping 12-hour days and they're doing a day shift and a night shift. So it all depends on where you want to go to work. If you're like the work that I happen to do now, when I was doing a lot more marine work, when some of these sport fishing yachts would have something break on their tower or something like that, like that's money in their pocket that they're losing. So yeah, you'd have to, bust your butt and get those jobs done and stuff, because they're paying the captain, they're paying for all these things that are not happening, while you're working. So it's really important that you do work fast. So, but there's some jobs that it's just, typical 9 to 5. As an educator, it's never a 9 to 5. And I know Scott and Jason, they can attest to that. You go home, you work. It's just like, you're always thinking about your students. It's a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then as a business owner, so if you're looking to become a business owner, your day isn't over at, after 5 o'clock. You just think, oh, did I order that? Oh crap, that broke. I got to call somebody to come in for that. I got to get this delivery, or this needs to be done, or, there's always something going on. So, but there are plenty of jobs out there that you can go work for somebody, and it's 9 to 5, a lot of manufacturing, some basic fab work. There's a lot of jobs like that are definitely a little, if you're looking for that type of lifestyle of a 9 to 5 and being home for dinner every night. But, if you want to make the big boy money or the big girl money, you're definitely going to have to put in more than a 40-hour week. That's for sure.
Very good advice. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, let's move down the line here. Let's go with Scott. Scott, how has technology changed the work of like blacksmiths and welding in general?
Well, I think it's taken a lot of the, the production jobs out of welding. A lot of people that were running the same bead constantly all day, every day for 12 hours. A lot of those jobs have been kicked over to robots. We still need welders to run them, but it takes a lot of the manual work out of it. A lot of people have their yays and nos about robots and all that, but the people that have been doing the same process over again, that little tiny bead over, I think they're a little bit happier that they can now control a robot. They can possibly go look at another option, maybe learning a different skill. I had people running robots. They either made $15 an hour or they made $40 an hour. So it did open up other opportunities to learn programming and everything like that. I have a night shift instructor that's doing blacksmith now, where he makes knives on the sides. He does it the old school way, where he hammers it into the blade, shapes it, everything. He's saving up for all the equipment that he needs to start making the knives a lot faster. So it helps a lot with the time crunch, helps a lot with making sure that everything's precise. Takes the kind of the the handmade feature out of it, but it also helps with the opportunity to increase what else is possible. You have other options to what can we do? Can we make this shape? Can we make that shape? Get a little bit more customizable. I don't think we'll ever go away from anything handmade, but technology just makes everything better. It makes it easier, not really better, but it just really just helps production wise. If you're owning a company and you got to do production work, kind of takes out the guesswork on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you do hear a lot of technology changes and whatnot, and I agree with you. There are some people that are like, oh, the robots, but it sounds like they can, there's still people keeping jobs, but they can be a big help too. So very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One more thing I wanted to add to that too. Aside from the robots, technology and the equipment. Now when I learned, and everybody else on this panel, when we all learned welding, you had these crazy machines with these very rigid, clunky knobs and levers, and just now the margin of error for just machine setup is even better. You can have somebody who knows very little about welding, and they're not a robot, but the machine itself can be programmed exactly to what you need, and basically that room for error is eliminated a little bit, at least somewhat. It still comes down to the operator, but you can set the machine, tell it what material you're running, what the thickness is, and it'll set your voltage and your amperage and your everything is done pretty autonomously now on a lot of these newer machines. So I think that's pretty unique and awesome to our industry, is that the machines have adapted to make life easier for us too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Who knows? And you just think, where is it going to be 20, 30, 40 years from now? So it's amazing technology.
They're they're essentially computers right now. I know in my lab, half the pieces of welding equipment that I have, it's a computer. And when they come out with new waveforms and new technology, all I have to do is take my laptop out to the lab and update the machine. So a couple of the machines I have, there's 458 different modes of metal transfer in it, just because of the waveform technology. And like there's about four of them I use, but I have access to that technology to be able to change the waveform, depending on the type of material that I'm welding on, the thickness of the material, the diameter, how good or not skilled the welder themselves are. There's machines out there like Fronius that'll actually compensate for poor technique. So I mean, there's a lot of technology that's available to make welders better, and I think they're putting a lot of that stuff into the machines because we do have a shortage of welders currently. So technology's kind of helping to fill that gap a little bit.
Very good. Thank you guys very much. Brandon, let's go to you. Can you kind of talk about like the job outlook for the welding industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Jason was kind enough to send me over some stats from the American Welding Society, and then I'll add kind of like an Iowa spin on that. So currently there's 750,000 welders employed in the United States. Something big to pay attention to is 160,000 of those welders are nearing retirement age. So you hear a lot in our industry, 4-to-1 or a 5-to-1 ratio of those leaving the workforce to one coming back in. And that's Iowa's the same. It impacts us just like that does across the United States. Out of that, 78,000 of welding jobs filled annually. So you can see that you're not really making up that gap of the people leaving the workforce. Same here in Iowa, and roughly 314,000 new welders needed by 2024. And then to put an Iowa spin on that, right now we have 9,200 welders roughly. That covers a lot of different industries. And then we probably need by 2026, with the growth between 15 to 20% is what they're reporting right now for 2026, another 1,300 to 1,800 welders that we need by that date. So once again, with all those retiring, it's very hard to make that gap up.
Thank you very much. Those are good facts and kind of scary facts. But that's really good to know. So thank you guys for looking that up and giving us those. We appreciate that. And then David, you are next. Can you talk about some of the like non-traditional pathways in welding?
Yeah, sure. Well, I kind of touched upon this a while ago, where one of the biggest regrets in my life was not going to a welding school. So, I kind of learned off of just, pressing the button, pushing down the pedal, turning the gas up and down, but I wasn't very technically proficient at welding. So when I do these monumental sculptures, I mean, I could kill somebody if I start doing especially the structural welds, right? Because those have to be way, way perfect, and, X-ray and all these kind of things, which I don't do. So one of the biggest regrets of my life was not going to welding school. But I mean, the kids who are doing all of this, they can easily, once they, get all that, the technical aspect out of the way, go right into metal art. Try doing some sculptures after school, or maybe in your garage. Get like a small little machine and just start, sticking things together and seeing what you can do. I mean, it doesn't have to be like a Michelangelo or a perfect piece of art. You can do even utilitarian art. You could do like do a table, or heck, you can do like a candle holder like these back here. Just try to be creative, and it's such a good outlet. I mean, it completely relieves you of stress. Metal art completely does. So I mean, it really is helpful in that way, and it just gets all those creative juices flowing, and you just kind of feel good, man, because you're just doing something that only you know how to do, right? I mean, I get that school is great, but there's like 15, 20 other kids doing the same perfect type of weld, right? Well, do go home and do like a weird weld, or start putting like jigsaw puzzles of metal, sheets together, something that only you have done, which is so cool about metal art, right? Because I mean, every sculpture is something that is very unique, very yours.
So just kind of talk about like what does the day look like for you then? Because I'm sure it's a little different maybe than the typical welding. And like, do you have a shop? Can you kind of just be more specific on like your end of things? Maybe it does look like a welding, area, but
Sure. Well, the cool thing about my shop is that I have basically the same machines Scott, Jason, Steph, and Brandon have. I mean, the same exact machines, but I just kind of use them differently. Where I don't even know, how to put it up or down, or the amp. I don't even know what an amp is. Somebody please tell me. But what I just I use the same machines and just kind of mess with them a little bit. I'll get close with the torch. I'll go go away with the torch. If I do TIGs, I don't care if it gets stuck in the metal. I'll just kind of grind it out just a little bit. I'm not. This is the cool stuff. Like my shop is not a place where maybe Jason, Steph, or anybody else from the panel would want to go to. I mean, if they would see me weld, they would probably have a cow, man. They'd be like, David, oh my God, they would have nightmares about seeing me weld. But it's the cool thing about doing metal art, right? And my shop, I get there in the morning. It's very cool because a lot of the creativity comes out at night for me. So I'm kind of in bed, and I don't know if my subconscious is working to where it kind of helps me out in the morning, and I just start, just sculpting, just like kind of doing crazy stuff. That's what I'm always out to do, is just do unique, crazy welds and incorporate that into sculpture. Usually sculptors, they're kind of basic, right? They'll do clay or wood or marble, but metal art, and especially welded art, when you do, blacksmithing is another thing, but welding art is so, I mean, you have so many tools in your art kit, right? I mean, just so many different types of textures and colors, and now you could go crazy with welded art. So that's basically my whole day, is just trying to come up with just different types of what's the word? Textures, different types of finishes, things like that. And yeah, it's really exciting. So I love it, man. I love it.
So David, I did not know any of that. I didn't know you could even do that. So thanks for sharing that with us. We appreciate that.
Megan, if I can add one more thing.
Yeah.
Working with Stephanie, it really opened up my world, right? Because she is such a perfect welder. I mean, she's probably the best in the world, right? I mean, and having her
making stuff up.
Oh, come on. Stop being so humble, Stephanie. So having Stephanie around, I can't believe what she does, right? And it's so amazing. So even though I do crazy stuff over here, what I see Stephanie do, I'm like, oh my God, like it's unbelievable how perfect those welds are, or those finishes. And then like everything that's in her head. And, of course, Jason, of course, Scott and Brandon. I mean, what's in welders' heads, I mean, they're extremely smart people. They're some of the smartest, ingenious, just problem-solving people I've ever met in my life. And
I
I'm
think
sorry,
patience,
I just wanted to,
like you have to have
just wanted to
patience.
say
I don't
that.
know how Yeah, no, and that's a really good point. And we, the students I work with, I hear a lot of, oh, but I'm a female. I probably, and we don't see a lot of female welders. So I think it is awesome that you said that. That was a very nice compliment towards Stephanie. And I'm glad that she was able to give you better insight. I mean, that's good. It gives a good perspective to on what she does. Thank you very much.
This metal art thing, I mean, before you needed to have like like an art dealer, or you had to be kind of like in the elite in crowd. Not anymore, baby. We got social media. We could be our own bosses. We can be our own promoters. So if you do want to be a metal artist, don't worry about all that kind of snobbery over here in the art world. You could just go out and do it yourself and make some money. Just wanted to throw that out there, guys.
Okay, I have two more questions I want to get to quickly, if that's okay with you guys. One of them is, what education and training is necessary for this career? I know we've talked about it. Some of you have been specific in your areas. Does anybody or a few of you want to talk about maybe in general or in your specific areas? Is there a certain training and education that these students listening should know about and maybe should go get? Anybody?
I think Stephanie kind of had that mapped out when she said, look at your area.
Okay.
At my school, I teach everything. Anything that they want, I ask them before they're like about 2 months before they graduate, or even when they first start, what do they want to do? It doesn't matter if they have an idea or if they have no idea. I want kind of an idea of what got them interested, what made them step foot in the school to even come toward it. And then we can build off of that. Towards the end of their program, they should have enough knowledge or at least know what interests them. Does stick interest them? Does TIG, MIG? Do they want to travel? All that. But if you don't know what's in your area, if you haven't talked to anyone, if you haven't done your research, you're not going to know what's out there. It can't, everyone that says, oh, be a pipe welder, #1 job in the world. There's people that build roll cages that are the happiest people in the world, and they make awesome living. There's people that repair trash cans, and they're happy making the money that they have. It just find what really interests you, what got you to step foot into a school.
Thank you very much. Jason, or Steph, did you guys have anything else?
Yeah, I'd say
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Steph.
No, I was just going to say, looking for schools that offer certifications. I mean, you don't have to necessarily be like, oh, I'm going to go to a 2-year welding school at this, a college. You can go like Scott and I, we both run schools that are a little bit more short term in training length, and find schools that fit into your schedule and your budget, and look for schools that are going to offer some type of certification. Now, is certification the end all be all to being a good welder? Absolutely not. But it's just something to kind of prove that you do kind of know what you're doing, and maybe that you've passed this test before, and that you should most certainly be able to do it again. So it's just something nice to see as an employer, that you've taken the effort to go and get something like a certification. Even if it's like just NA in the place that it's for, it doesn't have to be a national level certification or company driven signed off one. But even if you just go out there and just get yourself a certification, and certifications, I mean, you can go to a very long-term program, but some people pass a test, you can get 40 hours in, and you know how to pass a plate test, I mean, and that's all based on your own skill level and how much time you're willing to put in it, and how much attention you're paying to your new craft that you're trying to get into. So I think there's training out there for everybody that'll in this industry, whether you want to get into something where the engineering side or the robotics side, where you might need some more college stuff, or if you're looking to just dabble and see if you like it, there's night programs, single day courses, that a couple month long programs. There's just so many options, and there's such a need for welders that if you want to get into it, there's a will and there's a way that you can make training work for you. And training is always better than no training when it comes to employers. And most employers are going to do a lot more on the job training with you, because a lot of places it's going to be very codes. They have their own specifics that they have to be adhering to and stuff like that with codes and specifications and stuff. So I'd say don't be intimidated and just go out there, take class, see if you like it. And then, I used to teach high school welding for several years. And the biggest thing was you always get these kids, everybody wants to be a pipe welder. Everybody wants to be an underwater welder, but not everybody is good at those things. So not everybody's a great stick welder. Some people, hey, you can be MIG welding, you could do more fabrication, high production, stuff like that, manufacturing, and I think it's sometimes up to the educator to also help and facilitate the students and kind of opening their eyes to what else is out there than what they just heard about. So.
Great advice. Thank you. Jason, did you have something?
Yeah, just to kind of go off, very similar to what Stephanie was saying, not everybody that goes through a welding school is going to come out and be a welder. But what it does allow you to do is get exposure to it. So I've had students that come through the program and they realize, hey, you know what, this welding's not for me. I'm either not able to grasp the concept, or I think it's cool to watch other people do it. But, they might get into equipment sales, or they might get into, troubleshooting or consultation services or training services. We have students that go through and they decide, hey, you know what, I want to take this to the next level, and they'll go off and get a welding engineering degree. Because if you think there's a shortage on welders, there's a huge shortage on welding engineers, because people don't ever get exposed to that area. But we need welding engineers to make sure that when we stick things together, that they last and they support the intended load. You also have certified welding inspectors. You can get into that, because we need people to inspect the welds that the welders produce. There's just so many different facets of the industry. And one thing I recommend is, once you get into welding school, like, I can never get enough of it. I've been to 4 hands-on training welding schools throughout my career. And then as an educator, I continuously go back and learn more, try to advance with the technology, excuse me, so I'm not being left behind. Mm-hmm. So, go to training seminars. I mean, there's a lot of stuff online you can do. But one thing I tell students coming into the program is, I always hated math when I was going through high school, because it was never relevant. And on top of that, I'm dyslexic and I have ADD. So if I'm not interested in a subject, it's hard for me to follow along and pay attention. But as a welder, I get to work with these, and I think that's what makes the biggest difference. So if you're going to get into a welding school, find a place that's, you have a lot of hands-on training, and you actually get to learn the math that's required. Because now that, I never understood the Pythagorean theorem or why it mattered until I had to build a staircase. Now it all makes sense. Now it's relevant. So I want to learn this information. It's like, man, if you start picking up all the stuff you remember from back in high school, sitting there thinking, like, when am I ever going to use this stuff? And now all of a sudden, I'm working with fractions and decimals, and now it's all making sense because it's relative to what I'm doing and what I'm interested in. So I think, once you get into these hands-on trades, whether it's welding, electrical, plumbing, pipe fitting, whatever you get into, you're going to realize that all this stuff, it's relevant. And you now you get excited that this information, and then you start digging a little bit deeper. One thing, like, tour whatever welding school you want to go to. There's a lot of great schools out there. But there's also a lot of not so great schools out there that they're going to charge you a premium on tuition. And as long as you show up every day, they're going to push you right through, and it's just kind of like a puppy mill for welders. So go out there and do some research, talk to other welders, reach out to, welders that you respect on Instagram and say, hey, what do you recommend? This is the area I live in. Welding is such a small community. We probably know somebody that lives there or around that area, and we can refer, other people to different institutions that we would recommend that are credible.
Very good. Yeah, and our last question before we wrap up was, what other advice do you have? So, David, I saw that you took. Did you have something to add to that? You took yourself off.
The advice?
Just advice. Just everyone's been kind of sharing about education and training, but like, what advice do you have?
Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and repeat that. Just go to welding school, guys. Please, just get this stuff done. Learn about it. There's a pretty good analogy to where, before you go into metal art, to kind of get all that technical stuff out of the way, there's a good analogy to that. It's like there's the famous, amazing Picasso, right? Pablo Picasso. Picasso, what he did is, before he did all that crazy cubism and all the, the cows with the eye over here and then the tail over there, before he did that, Picasso was an unbelievable realist painter. I mean, he did everything like perfect, but photographic almost. He was an amazing realistic painter. And then he kind of went into all the crazy stuff little by little, right? So I kind of want to take that analogy and throw it onto the welding world, right? And the welded art world also, to where just kind of get all the perfect, the technical stuff out of the way, and then start doing all the crazy stuff that I do, and just messing with the machines and you know, just using like doing all those weird welds and textures, but just kind of get that stuff out of the way. And you know, heck, you could be both things. I know so many people out there like Stephanie, who is an amazing welder, and she does metal art. So you can split your head into two, right? You can have the technical and the artistic, and be like Stephanie, guys. Be like Stephanie.
Brandon or Scott, did you guys have any last comments or any advice that you guys wanted to share? This has been so great.
Yeah, I mean, going off of what Stephanie and Jason said too, with some of their stuff, Iowa being very agriculture heavy, manufacturing heavy. Like, I still believe in going to like a welding school, maybe getting some certificates. It doesn't matter if you learn through maybe even a union apprenticeship, going through the plumbers and steam fitters or something like that, going through that whole process, and then deciding that you want to do something else. You can take that skill with you across multiple industries. I don't want people to think that they're just stuck as a plumber and steam fitter. And there's nothing wrong with that job. It's an amazing job. But if you decide kind of like that it's not for you, you can come into the agriculture world. You can go into manufacturing. You can start your own fabrication company. I know in our world, on the residential home building side, we need people fabricating staircases like crazy right now, and those types of really neat art pieces and things like that for homes. So you could start your own company after going through a full apprenticeship, and kind of go your own way. So I agree 100% with what they're saying there. So don't think that you're stuck after you're doing something. There's plenty of other things out there.
Wow, so many possibilities. You guys, this is great advice. Scott, did you have anything? And that's okay if not. Just don't want to leave you out here.
No, I think everyone said it. Just pretty much don't think you're stuck in this industry. It's just a stepping stone. You can stay here forever, or you can branch out and go somewhere else. It just opens up opportunities.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you guys. Anne is going to also, but I've got to tell you, this has been a lot of fun. I've never had such a panel that has been so bonded, and you guys have so much in common, but yet you're learning so much from each other. And that amazes me, sitting here listening to how professional you guys are and what you do. So thank you for, taking time to educate us and the students. Anne, go ahead. Thank you guys.
Exactly what Megan said. Thank you so much to Jason, Stephanie, David, Scott, and Brandon. You were great examples of having the students explore their passion and hone in their skills and find really a career pathway that fits what they want to do in their life. So again, thank you to our panelists. If you'd like to explore more career opportunities like the one you just saw, make sure you check us out, the Iowa Intermediary Network, on our website, iowain.org. And again, thank you to Iowa Work-Based Learning coordinators for sponsoring this production today, and Iowa Skilled Trades for a great partnership in helping us secure our great panelists today. So once again, thank you, and hopefully you will explore more in the welding career pathway.